Hey there, race fans. It's race day, top 5 with me, Frank 5. Thursday night spectacular. Yes, the first NASCAR Cup Series race held on a Thursday night because Mother Nature postponed Wednesday's race to Thursday night. And boy, did it provide some exciting racing, exciting passing, and redemption for the last 2 weeks for the guy on that flag. Number 1, Chase Elliott. My boy, finally, redemption! Yeah! Sorry, I'm a little excited. Chase Elliott captured the Alsco uniforms 500K last night at Charlotte Motor Speedway, winning the race over Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Kurt Busch. What a moment it was for Chase Elliott. I mean, if you watched the last 2 races, you would understand how big this was, not only for him, but for the whole team. Chase Elliott has been so close the last 2 races to getting his first win of the 2020 season. Obviously, Darlington, you remember, he had a big run towards the end of the race against Denny Hamlin with fresher tires, but Kyle Busch slid up in line behind him and accidentally clipped him, thinking there was room there, but it wasn't, turning Elliott into the inside wall and proceeding him to flipping off Kyle Busch. Then on Sunday at the Coca-Cola 600, Chase Elliott ran the top 5 pretty much the entire race. Got up there towards the end, past Brad Keselowski for the lead, and looked to be on cruise control to his first win of the season until his teammate, with 3 laps to go, William Byron, cut a tire down and ultimately forced Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson to make a tough decision whether to pit or not to pit, because it's kind of a balls and strikes call. If you stay out, everybody else behind you pits. If you pit, everyone else stays out. Well, Chase Elliott pitted and ultimately lost the race as far as winning it, but he was able to drive from 11th to 2nd in the last 2 laps, counting Jimmy Johnson's disqualification, even though he was the 3rd car across the line. But he was upset. He wanted to win a crown jewel. He wanted so badly to try and get to victory because, he's had fast cars everywhere this year. And last night, he got it done with a very fast race car once again. Great pit stops, great adjustments, and Alan Gustafson just called the race perfectly. Chase was very happy in his post-race interview, very ecstatic. Finally, we're in the playoffs. We're going to be able to compete for a championship later this year. I'm very excited about it. I'm sure Elliott fans and Chase Elliott himself are very excited. And all the, whining about Alan Gustafson's call, everybody can stop that now because we finally got a victory. We're in the postseason and we're ready to give it all we got. And, it was kind of a tough battle, trying to get up to the race. We had a really good race car, had to take some time to get some good track position, but ultimately he had it for most of the night and was able to propel himself up there. So Elliott's locked into the playoffs, and the siren was ringing loud in Dawsonville. And it was a big week for him too, as well, because he ran the truck race on Tuesday night with a bounty on the line for anybody that could beat Kyle Busch, who was entered in that race, and Chase Elliott won $100,000, $50,000 from Kevin Harvick and $50,000 from Marcus Lemonis. And after the race, Chase Elliott, based on how he and Kyle Busch have been lately, did kind of a savage move, proceeding to bow like Kyle Busch does after he wins a race with the checkered flag. He kind of, that was pretty savage. I loved it, and just a great week for Chase Elliott fans. Number 2, Denny Hamlin, after the problems he had Sunday with the ballast falling out of the back of his car, forcing him to pit at the beginning of the race and fall 7 laps behind, and ultimately led to a 4-week suspension for crew chief, car chief, and engineer. They did a really good job last night getting a 2nd place finish, and they were not good at the beginning. They had no track position. The car wasn't that good, but they kept making adjustments even without his crew chief. Normal crew chief there, and he was able to drive all the way up there towards the very end to get 2nd place in the last lap from Ryan Blaney. Denny Hamlin proved that even without his normal crew chief, Joe Gibbs Racing, like I mentioned in the previous video, they have a lot of personnel back at their shop that can get the job done no matter what, and they did everything they did last night. Number 3, Kevin Harvick had arguably the fastest car. That thing, it's a Mustang. That thing literally had ponies in the engine. That thing was flying. He was so good on the short runs, led the most laps. But you could tell at the final stage, especially with 60 laps to go, as Chase Elliott passed him, Kevin Harvick's car had no grip whatsoever. The car was just, out of control. It had no balance whatsoever. And he went from first on, with 60 to go to finishing 10th. That's how bad his car was the last few laps. I guess the long runs just didn't work in the hands of Kevin Harvick. But still, he's the only driver so far to have a top 10 in every race this year. That's consistency on the, basics of Kevin Harvick and his crew chief, Rodney Childers. They keep having consistent finishes and consistent race cars every single week. They still could be the favorites to win the championship this year based on how they've been running every single week. Number 4, Alex Bowman, probably one of the fastest entry cars last night other than Chase Elliott. He had a really good race car, won stage last night. I think it was stage 2. I think it was stage 2. Yeah, I can't remember. But he won a stage last night, had a really good car. It looked like he was going to keep up with Kevin Harvick. But late in the race, at the beginning of stage number 3, he accidentally got loose off of 4 and hit the outside wall, and that ultimately took him out of contention to win the race. He finished a lap down way in the pack. The last 3 races, Alex Bowman has had very fast race cars, but the finishes are not, proving why he has good race cars. He finished 18th at Darlington, the second race. He finished 19th in the Coke 600 and finished in the top 30 or top 35 last night based off of him hitting the wall. Alex Bowman's still really good. They just need a little bit more good finishes to go along with what's been a very solid season for this 88 team. And number 5, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. picked up his second top 5 of the season. Of course, his first came out in Las Vegas. It was a big week and a big race for this team. They really needed a shot in the arm because the first race when NASCAR came back at Darlington, we didn't even get a full lap in, and Ricky Stenhouse crashed on the back straightaway for, trying to pass on well, there's no room down there. There's no grip whatsoever, taking him out of contention. They struggled in the second Darlington race. They weren't that good in the Coke 600, but last night, we saw it last year on the mile-and-a-half package with the closer racing and multiple passing in the middle of the pack and at the front of the pack. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. ran good at a lot of the races last year at the beginning, and then ultimately the team fell off as the season progressed. But still, nonetheless, it was a good performance for Stenhouse Jr. This team. They needed this finish. They needed some good luck, and they were able to get a good result out of it. My overall assumption of the race last night, it was a lot closer than was in the Coke 600. No, I said the Coke 600 was a good race. Last night, I think, was an even better race based on how close the cars were, and you kind of saw it mirrored what we saw at Kansas in the Coke 600 and even Chicagoland last year, and even the second Kansas race as well. Hopefully we can see more of that when we go to the next mile-and-a-half, which is Atlanta in 2 weeks. It was close racing, close quarters. There were a couple of times where they were 4 wide. I'm thinking, how are these guys not crashing? They're that close to each other, especially on the backstretch and then turn 3. But there were a couple of cars that tangled. Kyle Busch cut a tire after getting into Eric Almirola. He was not happy on the radio. He never got his lap back, finished back. Kyle Busch still hasn't won a race this year. That is absolutely shocking from the defending Cup Series champion. But they're going to win eventually. Who knows? It may be this upcoming week, and I'm about to tell you why. Because this upcoming week, it's Bristol, baby. Even though there aren't going to be any fans at the track, they're going to have a good time watching the drivers race in the last great Coliseum. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of action. The second race with the 750 horsepower package with low downforce, low spoiler in the back. Going to be an interesting race. We saw how good the package was in Phoenix. Let's hope it carries over to Bristol. I'm sure it will. Bristol is Bristol. It never disappoints whatsoever. It's going to be a fun race, and I cannot wait. So, big questions. Will Kyle Busch pick up his first win at one of his favorite tracks? Will Chase Elliott, who's been strong the last few weeks, carry on for his second consecutive win for the first time in his career and get a second consecutive victory and get his 8th win of the season and his 8th win of his career? My mistake. 8th win of his career. Or will Kevin Harvick continue to have very fast cars and go there? Or will somebody else, like maybe even Jimmy Johnson in his final season? We shall see. So subscribe, like. Chase Elliott's a winner, baby. And I'm so proud. I'm happy. And I got to do one more thing. Just because Chase Elliott did it Tuesday night in the truck race, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's all. Have a good weekend.